Welcome to Q&A practice. Let's start out with a real short warm-up. This is actually the end of the transcript we had been working on. There's just a couple pages left, so we'll use it to get our fingers moving. And we will start with defense attorney. Ready? Here we go. And the plea agreement says very clearly that if you do not, well, strike that. And you also, since you've been down at the jail, you've done a few things that are certainly illegal, right? Objection, Your Honor, sustained. Well, it has to do with violating the plea agreement, Your Honor. Well, okay, have you in fact, you have violated the terms of the plea agreement. Objection, argumentative. Again, the objection is sustained. Has the government informed you that it is going to cancel your plea agreement? No. Has the government told you that because you've lied? They're not interested in filing a 5K. Objection, Your Honor. You may answer no. Has the government told you that because you discussed having friends use fake IDs to come visit you, they're canceling the 5K? Objection, Your Honor, sustained. Has the government told you that because you have been making homemade alcohol? Objection, Your Honor, sustained. And your plea agreement says that unless the government files a motion, the judge has no choice but to give you 5 years minimum. Objection, you may answer that. Right? Yes. I don't have anything further. Thank you, Mr. Silva. All right, Mr. Silva, you're excused. Okay, let's move on. We will start with the court. Ready? Here we go. Okay, all right, so fine, we can break for lunch. Thank you, Your Honor. The defense will call Eric Traub. Mr. Traub, where do you live? I live in Washington, D.C. Are you married? Do you have a family there? I'm married and I have a daughter. What do you do for a living? I am a software engineer. I work at a small company in the Washington, D.C. area. Yes. Where did you go to college? I went to MIT. When did you go there? From 1995 to 1999. Did you have another career before you became a software engineer in D.C.? Yes, I did. I was a teacher. And where were you teaching? I taught at several schools. I taught at the Commonwealth School in Boston, as well as City on a Hill in Boston and Cambridge Rindge and Latin in Cambridge. And is there some intersection between your interest in software and your interest in teaching? Yeah, software is mostly composed of mathematics, and for several of the years that I was a teacher, I was also a computer science teacher. So I taught both math and computer science and was very interested in the intersection between those two. And your degree at MIT was in, I have a bachelor's of science in computer science and engineering, and you told us that you taught at Cambridge Rindge and Latin School. Do you recall the years? Yeah, I started there in 2007 and I finished in 2011. Do you know Jahar? Yes, I do. Do you see him here in the courtroom? I do. And when did you teach Jahar? He was my student in 2007. In the fall of 2010. So you had him for two semesters or 2 full years, 2 semesters. And what did you teach? I was his math teacher, so I taught him in Algebra 1 and a class called Honors Advanced Math Topics, which is a course for seniors in which we look at a variety of topics like probability, statistics, and discrete math. So you taught him at the beginning of his high school years and at the end of his high school years. That's correct. How would you describe Jahar for the jury? Jahar was a kind student. He got along great with his peers. I really liked having him in the classroom because he participated. He brought kind of a fun energy to the classroom. Was he outspoken, quiet? How would you describe him? He wasn't outspoken in the sense of being disruptive in the classroom. He was quiet, but he was always, willing to engage in conversation. And did he have a particular group of friends, or were you aware? I didn't know of any particular clique that he hung out with in my classroom. He seemed to get along. Seeing him in my classroom, he seemed to get along with all the students. Freshman year was a bigger class, and he kept to himself a little bit more as a freshman. There were a few students I know that he hung out with. I know the Silva brothers were in that class, and he was friends with them. I'm going to pull up a photo. I don't think there's any objection, Your Honor. 3246. That's fine, Your Honor. Okay. I'd like to make sure that goes into evidence. Do you recognize that photo? I do. And can you tell you can actually touch the screen and point to people. Can you tell the jury who that is? Sure. This is Jahar. This is one of the Silva brothers, one of the twins, and that's me. That's probably not a picture that you want to send around the world. No. Can you tell us? Do you recall the occasion? Sure, we were. I can tell what was happening. I don't remember the specific day. You can see in the background there's some students leaving the classroom, so this is probably after school. Class had just ended, and I don't remember if I was invited into this photo or if I decided just to jump in and photobomb them, but I was just goofing off and blowing off some steam after school. But you had a good relationship, I take it, with Jahar? Yeah, we had a good relationship. Did you know anything about Jahar's ethnic or religious background? I didn't know much about his ethnic background. I knew he spoke Russian, and I knew he was Muslim. How did you know that? He and some of the other students occasionally prayed in a classroom near mine. Did you ever hear Jahar talk about American politics overseas or politics? No. Did you ever meet his parents? No. Were there opportunities at Cambridge Ringe for teachers to meet parents? Yeah. There were two things that happened. These were both freshman year and senior year. It hadn't changed. There's an open house at the start of each semester in which parents can go through the students' classes. And then there's a parent-teacher night where parents can schedule one-on-one sessions to talk with the teachers, and they never came to those. They never came to the one-on-one meetings. It's possible they came to one of the open houses, but the open houses, you have all the parents there, and it's not a one-on-one interaction. You kind of explain the classroom and what happens there. So did you know that Jahar had siblings? I did not. At some point, did Jahar ask you to write a letter of recommendation for him to go to college? He did. And what was your reaction when he asked you to do that? I was happy to write it for him. I was excited about writing a letter for a student that I had in my, seeing him as he started school and seeing him at the end of his school it's fun to write a letter like that. It's fun for a student that you get to see both as they enter and finish school. So I'm going to pull that up. It's Exhibit 3247-3. Is there any objection to this? No, Your Honor. Okay. Do you recognize this letter? I do. And is it the letter of recommendation that you wrote? Yes. I'm going to ask you to read it to the jury. I think they might make it large enough. Thank you. Can you see that okay? Yeah, I can read that. Would you read it to the jury? Sure. Dear admissions officer, I write with enthusiasm to you in recommendation of Zokhar Sarnev. I have known Zokhar since the start of his freshman year in high school when I was his Algebra 1 teacher. This fall, he has been a student in honors advanced math topics and elective, which explores a variety of topics in discrete math with a focus on their application in the real world. Zokhar is a smart, energetic, and friendly student. Zokhar is a good student. He quickly absorbs new ideas and has a close to perfect homework record. He brings a healthy, energetic, competitive spirit to the class. He motivates himself in class with academic competitions of his own, devising such as racing to write down notes or completing a calculation. His tongue-in-cheek contests are taken in good spirit and have a beneficial effect on the attention of not only himself, but the classmates he is competing against. Zokhar is amiable with his peers and adults. His good nature and positive spirit have made Zokhar a pleasure to know over the past 4 years. He is always polite and respectful and enters the classroom with a warm greeting. He is well regarded by his peers and gets along well with everyone in the class. I can rely on him to contribute positively to any permutation of students with whom he is grouped. Zokhar is a strong student with a positive attitude. I enjoy teaching him both as a freshman and as a senior because of his competitive academic drive, and positive disposition. It has been a pleasure to have him at our school, and I strongly recommend him to you. You wrote that in December 2010, right? That's correct. Were you sincere about everything that you said in that letter of recommendation? Absolutely. And do you mean those things even as you sit here today? I do. Where were you when you heard about the Boston Marathon bombing? I was in South Africa visiting my brother. And can you tell us what your thoughts were when you learned that Jahar Sarnev was suspected of being involved in the bombing? Objection sustained in that form. When you learned that Jahar Sarnev was involved in the bombing, was that consistent with the Jahar Sarnev that you knew? Not at all. I was shocked when I saw his picture on TV and then his name was there. In fact, I didn't even believe it was him at first because it just didn't make sense to me. And it took me a while to absorb that it was him and that, I wasn't misunderstanding. All right, we will stop there. That will conclude our Q&A practice.